Good morning. Welcome to the Science of Mind class here at CSLDallas. We have new art for the month of April. Yay! Beautiful new art by a lovely artist named Carol Williams. And it's always so fabulous to see each month's artist bring in their fabulous creativity. One of the reasons why we do this, all of you, in case you don't know, is first of all, because we think art is anything that makes life beautiful is expressing the divine. But even more importantly, we say that we have a philosophy where we co-create, that we are creative beings, we're co-creating our lives. And how many of us walk around and say, oh, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. Which is nonsense. You may not be an artist in particular. You may not do a particular what we would think of as art, but we're all creative. We all have ways of imagining life, ways of thinking about things that are different than they absolutely look in front of us. And whether we're creating a business plan or a garden, creating a new way of talking to a child, or doing art, we're all creative. And so we do all kinds of things with art to remind ourselves that we are creative. We have our growing choir. You don't have to read music. You don't have to be a musician. You just have to want to sing so that we can express our creativity. And so that's a part of, it's so important. It's a part of being a co-creator, right? Is to realize that we can imagine something that isn't there, right? We can imagine something that isn't there, including a new business, a new city, healing the planet, figuring out how to deal with climate change. We can imagine all these things. And then, because we can imagine them, we can create them. And so using our minds, our thoughts, our spiritual intuition, and the universal principles, we're constantly engaged in creating. The question is only, are we creating what we want, or are we creating more of what we don't want? That's really the only question, and the only reason really to study all of this, which is why we talk about becoming conscious, becoming aware of what's going on, how it works, and then the fact that we can participate in that, right? So at the bottom of page 49, we were talking about hope last week, and at the bottom of page 49. Here's this paragraph. We have discovered what the principle is and how it works, and now this is what it does, right? We've been spending this whole time on kind of parsing out the basics of a roadmap or a topography of the nature of reality. The principle that we have to demonstrate is perfect, and insofar as we can compel the mind to perceive this perfection, so far it will automatically demonstrate. Experience has proved this to be true, right? That's part of the science of mind, is that we can work with it and then begin to approve it to ourselves. Now, here we go. We waste much time in arguing over things that cannot be answered. When we have arrived at the ultimate, that is the ultimate. It is the way the thing works. And so it may not be the ultimate in the fact that we are always growing in our understanding, always discovering more. But what we can say is that we have, in fact, discovered what we know so far. And if we've discovered it, we can, in fact, use it. And this idea, this understanding that we are constantly co-creating our life, constantly co-creating with the natural way in which the universe is creating, is simply a statement of what is. It's always going on, and we are always participating in it. We are always contributing to the creation of our own lives. The only question is whether or not we know it. Whether or not we know it, and whether or not we are consciously participating in it. That's the only reason to really explore and study the nature of reality. Studying it and understanding it doesn't change it. It's not like we've somehow magically created a new way of understanding the nature of reality. It's that we have allowed the nature of reality to reveal itself to us by exploring it, examining it, studying it, practicing with it, so that we can consciously engage with it, so that we are not simply on autopilot, right? So this is exactly what an artist does. An artist specifically, consciously engages with their medium, whether they're intuitively painting or whether they have an image that they're now recreating on the painting. In either case, the artist is co-creating that image with themselves, their intention, and with the medium they're using, right? But they're not just on autopilot, they're actually participating in the process. So this is not about the difference between manifesting intentionally and manifesting intuitively, right? Those two things are both about consciously participating in the creative process. It's the difference between consciously participating or being on autopilot, which means we're still participating. We just have no idea of what we're doing. And we're then creating out of the automatic habits and patterns and ways of thinking, right? So that's the juxtaposition. It's not like all of a sudden we're starting to create our lives. It's now that we are learning that this has always been going on. So the question is answered when we say it is the nature of thought and of the creative energy and the nature of being to be this way. It would be like asking, well, why does water flow? Because it's the nature of water to flow. It's a nature of liquids to flow. And when it crystallizes, it no longer flows. It's simply the way water works, H2O works, right? It is in the nature, it is the nature of thought and of the creative energy and the nature of being to be this way. And so this is the infinite law and the infinite intelligence that are part of this infinite unity. And so this is what we're engaging in. And I love this last sentence in this paragraph on page 50. Evolution is the outworking of the mechanical, and involution is the inworking of the conscious and the volitional. Ooh, big words, lots of big words. Evolution is the mechanical unfolding of the nature of the creative process to express. Right? So it's constantly evolving things to express. Everything is growing and it's evolving into more and more and more expressions, which is why we have more and more complex organisms and more ways in which this can be expressed. And it's all in service to more expression. Right? And the mechanical evolution doesn't necessarily care about a particular individual, particular tree, or a particular fish, or a particular star. It just cares that this expression is continually expanding. Involution, on the other hand, is the inworking of the conscious and the volitional, which is where we come in. Because we, unlike the star and the bird and the tree, are actually able to recognize what's going on and to involve ourselves in the process, involve new ideas, imagine a new way of seeing it or thinking about it, which then is a new way, a new addition to the automatic process. Yeah. So the last thing here, no limit to thought. So let me stop here for a minute. The reason that we talk about all of this is because what we want to do is give our brain food. We want to give our brain food that it understands enough of what's going on that it won't fight us when we start using it. Do you see, if you start simply affirming something out of the blue because somebody said, well, you should start affirming something, it's easier to go, yeah, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, but I don't know about that. Or we have a sense that we're lying because we're not telling the truth of our experience. The more that we understand the nature of reality, the less our brain can derail us and say that's not true. Because what we get to say back is, yes, it is. It's the spiritual truth. May not be my experience right in this moment, but it's the spiritual truth. And I know how the nature of reality works, and I know that by changing my thinking, I am shifting what the law is using to create my life. Do you see? And so we are engaging in the process of understanding it so that we can move into that place where we stop fighting with the process and we can actively remind ourselves why the spiritual practices that we use, why they're valuable, how they work, and how we participate. So there's no limit to this thought. There's no limit to what we can think, which means there's no limit to what we can create. All right, I already have seen a hand in the room, so we're going to turn over to Ryan and say good morning to those of you who are out there online. Good morning to those of you who are here in the room. Ryan's going to get us started, and then we'll have a comment here in the room.
Absolutely, and it's great to be back with you guys. I was out last week having fun in the sun, and I'm back with the tan. Just kidding.
We're happy you're back.
I was lonely looking out the window. Luckily, I got to see you guys online, so it was great to hear your voices last week, too. So I'm great to be back with you. And as Dr. Petra mentioned, this is an engaging experience, so we would love to hear your questions and comments. And there's a couple ways to do that. So for those who are in the room, it seems like I have a lively bunch. Let's test it, though. Okay. We're going to start with our left hand first. Try to raise it in the air. Now we're going to go with our right hand. Now wave it side to side like you just don't care. All right, we do have a few people who are awake this morning, so that's great. Let's see if the people online are awake, shall we? For the people here in the Zoom room, can you hit the raise your hand icon and we can see you wave your hand like you just don't care because you only have one on there.
Blink it on and off.
Blink it on and off. Yes, that's good. Blink it on and off and see if you can do that. Yeah, it looks like we do have a few people. That's wonderful.
There you go.
And for those who are joining us all over the globe on Facebook Live, make sure to wave your hands in the air like you just don't care, because we just envision you doing that out somewhere in the beautiful Bahamas or something like that. So it's just fun to think of. For those who are online, if you do want to join us, it's simple and easy. You just have to hit the raise your hand icon below, just like you did. Or you can put your questions and comments inside of the chat. And that goes true for those who are on Facebook as well. And I always like to mention that I keep the questions and comments that come in through the chat anonymous, so that way we can continue to have a safe container of spiritual growth. And so I did see a hand over here in the room, and then I do still see one here online, so we'll go to them here in just a second.
Great. Lisa's going to pass it up to you.
I forgot. The iconic Richard is in the house with us today. Got to always show him love. And he'll be helping pass the microphone, but I always encourage you guys to support us to pass it to a friend. Thank you so much. Go ahead and say your name and ask your question.
Good morning, Dr. Petra.
Good morning. You can't hear it in the room. It's for the people online.
Okay, thank you. My name is Barbara, and based on what the last paragraph that you were reading, could you give us an example? The outpicturing of our mind?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. An example of the outpicturing of our mind. Well, there's so many of them. There's so many different ways we can think about it. One, I hate when people ask me this question because I'm always going to out myself because I only have my own examples in my own life, right? So one, I noticed a long time ago that partners in the past, they just didn't do it right. They didn't do it right. And what I would do in my mind is I would talk to myself about how they didn't do it right. And guess what? They kept not doing it right. And of course, it was annoying and frustrating and made the relationships pretty uncomfortable, because what I was doing was simply walking around and constantly criticizing. Well, of course, that was an outpicturing of the way I was raised, right? Nothing was ever quite good enough. Nothing was ever quite perfect enough. Nothing was ever quite done the way it was supposed to be done. It was always constantly corrected. And so that's how I thought about people. Never mind that that's also how I thought about myself. But more importantly for this example, that's how I thought about people. And so, of course, that's all I saw. So with my beloved wife, I have recognized this pattern and realized that she's like this amazing person. What am I doing walking around criticizing her in my own mind? There's no point in that. It's ridiculous. And so very early on, I began to it was so stark, the criticism in my mind and the way that I saw and felt her in my heart, that I was like, that pattern all of a sudden became like excruciatingly noticeable. And what was so amazing is when I stopped criticizing her, she stopped doing the things that were so wrong. Obviously wrong in my opinion, right? Obviously, right? Like not loading the dishwasher correctly. I mean, all those stupid things that we're constantly at people at. So my experience of my relationship completely changed. What, right? Because I changed the thought pattern and the way in which I was observing what was going on. But all of that work is done in here. So that's an internal shift in perspective, which completely changes our experience on the outside. On the other hand, we can, of course, also then actually change the actual experience that we're having, not just the actual manifestation that we're having, not just our perception of it or our experience of it. And I experience that regularly in my work growing CSLDallas, right? Every time that I think to myself, it's not growing. What am I doing wrong? We're not doing it right. Something's wrong with what we're doing. It's not growing. We're not doing it right. We're not reaching out new people. What happens? Everything stalls, right? Everything completely stalls. And then it stalls to reinforce the fact that I'm thinking we're not growing, it's not happening, right? So it becomes what in psychology they call a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is simply us manifesting exactly what we believe and what we think is happening, and then reinforcing it over and over and over again, which is completely nonsense, because then Ryan would bring the analytics and he would say, look at how we're growing. And I'd be like, no, right? And so each time suppressing and bringing it down, right? Holding it down. And then, of course, shifting it and going, wait, no. We're doing our work. We are here doing our work. We're doing what we know to do and starting to really see and affirm that we're reaching people in a whole new ways, right? Blah, 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 all that stuff, doing that work. Magically, the numbers start to change. We start hearing that people are being touched all over the world, that people are visiting and coming and staying and being a part of, right? Not because, because I stop holding something different in my own consciousness, right? And then I begin seeing and expecting it to change. And it does. So we're constantly in this co-creative process. Sometimes what's there, we're just not seeing because of the way we're holding it. So our consciousness is only filtering out what's going on so that we see it the way we think is real. And sometimes we're literally rearranging the molecules of the universe, absolutely demonstrating and manifesting the specific thing that we're paying attention to. My 2 examples of how that works. So, yes, we have another comment here, and then Ryan, do we still have a comment online?
Yeah, we actually have been, we've got 2 people online, so let's go here into the room, and then we'll come to Connie first, and then Armando.
Great.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr.
Good
Petra.
morning.
So you read out this line, when we think, something happens to thought. And the other piece of that I love is there's no reason to doubt it. So I just want to share that Christine Volkmer did an amazing mind treatment around that this week. And for me, it really helped with that piece that is called There's No Reason to Doubt It.
Yes.
Because she really, took us back just to holding the what, and creation takes care of everything else.
Right.
And she takes us back in that mind treatment too. And I highly recommend it. I think it was Tuesday in the CSL text, but she took us back to our own creation.
Yes.
And how creation just makes it happen.
Right.
From childhood to teenage to adult, and we don't have to work at it.
Yes, beautiful. Right. The only thing we have to work at is we have to work at what we're holding in our consciousness, what we're paying attention to, what we're thinking about. That's why we spend so much time talking about the nature of reality and the universal laws, because the co-creative process relies on universal laws that they work because that's how they work. Water flows, gravity holds you down, light illuminates, right? They work because that's how they work. And when we know enough about that and can really trust that, now our manifestation is not undercut by our doubt. Right, beautiful, thank you so much. And I love that you said that. For those of you who don't get our text, we do send out inspirational texts 3 times a week, and one of them includes a weekly spiritual mind treatment that our practitioners are offering for whatever the topic of the week might be, or whatever they think is a really empowering process. So you can sign up on our text by, you can just email info@CSLDallas.org and say you want to sign up. Okay, Ryan, we're coming back to you.
And for those online, I just put the link into our new visitor card there as well, so you can sign up there too.
Perfect.
All right, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Connie to unmute yourself and join the conversation. Connie, do you want to join us?
Hey, Connie.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like coming to trust it, and it is, it works out, and I just am more and more going with the flow. Could you help me with how that fits into what you're talking about this morning?
Yeah, well, part of it is deciding, right? It's a choice, it's an intention to decide to follow your intuition. And again, going with the flow is actually an active thing. And so we have to intend to go with the flow, because I don't know about you, but I can drop into resistance in a heartbeat. Or I can drop into, I'm going to figure this out. Or I can drop into, it's going to happen the way that I want it to happen, right? And each one of those things, it takes me out of the decision to go with the flow. And so it's the intention of going with the flow that causes you to be better at going with the flow. Does it make sense? Right? It's the intention to listen to your intuition the decision to understand that your intuition is actually valuable and to listen to it and then act on it, all of these are co-creative acts. And I think we make a mistake if we think all of a sudden, well, I'm going to go with my intuition and go with the flow, that somehow we're not co-creative. Do you see? It's in the act of making those decisions that we're co-creative. And also being able to parse whether it's our intuition speaking or whether it's our fear speaking. And whether it's our intuition speaking or whether it's that we're fooling ourselves and we've just decided this is the way it's going to be. So we're gonna say it's our intuition, right? All of which causes us to become more and more self-aware. But even saying we are moving with the flow is a co-creative act. And we recognize that at any point, going with the flow, we can still steer. Because the flow might be moving in a certain direction, giving us options, and we're going to steer one direction or another. None of this means we are not being co-creative and not actively engaged. Co-creation is an extremely active and alert and engaged process. There is nothing passive about listening to one's intuition and going with the flow. So it's a great question. Thanks, Connie. All right, let's hear from Armando.
Yeah, Armando, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Morning, Dr. Petra.
Good morning.
I want to share a little story here. I had an experience recently affirming how in sync I am with Spirit and with God, and how easy it is for me to be just me. And I've been with my banker since 2018, and she's gotten to see how I manifest things, and she would ask me questions, and I would share about CSLDallas, and I would share about Science of Mind, and my spiritual disciplines. I know that word, but it is.
Yes.
And to share my gratitude that I write every day. And she said, well, tell me more about that. And so I did. And she said, would you share your template with me? And I said, absolutely. So I did, and she started practicing gratitude in advance, and for everything she has, she applied it to her family. Then she decided if she was going to take this to her team at the bank and have all of the team start writing gratitude every day. And so the team members started to see changes in their lives. So that was in 2018. Fast forward, I was at a meeting there at the bank a couple of weeks ago, and I see on everybody's desk a gratitude journal. The president of the bank decided that all of the employees and all of the branches in DFW should have a gratitude journal.
Wow. I love that, Armando. I love that. And I love how powerfully you are willing to speak about the practice that has made such a difference in your life, because you, by doing that, are making a difference in other people's lives. And so often we think, oh, I better not talk about it, I'm going to offend somebody. I'm not going to talk about it, they might not like it. I'm not going to talk about it because whatever. And you changed the lives of those people by sharing what you have learned. It's so amazing, and I really appreciate you sharing that, Armando. And gratitude is such a deep commitment to the co-creative process. Gratitude itself then becomes a generative act, which means it generates things. Gratitude is a generative act. We're not being grateful because we think somehow we have been favored by the divine. We're not being grateful because we think somehow we have convinced the divine to be nice to us and not strike us down in some way. We're not being grateful because it's mannerly. The universe does not need manners. It's a universal law that we're using. Gratitude is one of the best ways to co-create, because what we know is what we pay attention to grows. What we are focusing on is what the universal law is using our thoughts, our deliberate, intentional thoughts to manifest for us, right? Getting us out of autopilot. Autopilot is, this isn't working, and oh, that's not working. And autopilot is looking at everything through the lens of our childhood, right? I shared with you, the lens of my childhood was criticism and perfection. That was the lens of my childhood. And so what if instead we focused on gratitude? What is working, what we have already manifested, what we are expecting to manifest, grateful that we know that the law is bringing it to us, right? Do you see? That's a powerful co-creative act. We're not trying to figure out how that's going to happen. That's not our job. That's the law's job. That's when we get in the way, right? Which, as Connie said, that's when we're going with the flow. It doesn't mean we don't make decisions. It doesn't mean we don't make choices. It doesn't mean we don't decide things. What it means is we get out of the way so that the law can do its work. We stop interfering with the process itself. And gratitude is so powerful because it's literally creating more good. So even if you have only a small amount of good, if you have one thing to be grateful for, is a place to start. And to build a gratitude journal is an incredible way to remind ourselves of the good that we do have in our lives. You can literally start with the fact that we have a floor. Lots of people don't. We have houses that, unless they're hit by a gigantic tornado, for the most part will stand. Some people don't. We have running water, clean running water, and we have electricity. Most people don't. These are simple things, but we spend so much time on what we might call our first world problems that we don't pay attention to all that we actually already have. And do you see, by noticing all of that, we're focusing on the good that we do have in our lives and begins to generate more. Then we get into the habit of that. We can start seeing all kinds of good that we may have missed. The one place that I think sometimes we apply this incorrectly is that we can look at something that is not good and try to convince ourselves that it is. Well, I have to see it as good. Not necessarily. You do not have to see abuse as good. You do not have to see abuse as something that you're learning a lesson from and therefore is good, right? You can recognize that good will come of it because you will get out of it and get stronger. But also, sometimes it is you stop looking at the thing that's not working and you simply shift to someplace else in your life and you say, but look at all this other good. Why am I focused on this? I didn't get the promotion that I wanted, or that thing didn't work out the way I thought it would. But look at all these other things that have, or look at all the good in my life, right? It keeps us from focusing on the thing that doesn't work out, because this does not mean it's going to be a long, steady uphill climb into nirvana, or that you'll never have stones or even boulders in your pathway. What it means is that we have skills and resources and an understanding about how to navigate those. And we will create a whole lot less of them ourselves. We'll create a whole lot less boulders and stumbling blocks on our own. And the 10 or 20% that are real and actual, we actually have then a way of finding our way around, over, under, or through the very obstacle that's there. All right, we're going to see any other comments, thoughts about all of this.
Yeah, we have one here
Great.
in the room. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
My name is Carmen. I was just wanted to say, what I've been experiencing with myself, of the things that I'm confident with God in, the things that in my life that are going good. I see that in my reality, and the things. Oh, how can I say? Okay. So, I'm just gonna give you an example. So, I'm.
It's okay. Just breathe.
Okay. So, I've been single for a little bit, and since I put myself back out there, and I'm seeing, meeting wonderful people, and the things that I'm confident in within myself, I'm attracting.
Yes.
And the part that I'm not confident in, I'm attracting that too.
I know, right?
And I just realized that, and this pattern was coming with individuals I were meeting. I mean, I'm confident. I'm financially stable. I think, the outer shell looks really good, but it's that emotional part of me, and a lot of the individuals I would meet were like really good, confident, in the same areas that I was in, but they all said that they felt like they were a failure in their marriage, and I was like, why? I was thinking that, like, why am I meeting these individuals that are saying that they're failures? And then it made me, I asked God, and I got an answer, and I felt that was me. I felt like I failed my marriage. It was my fault. I should have fixed it, or I could have did something different. I should have did like this or like that, whatever. And so I was attracting that part of me too.
Yes.
And so I had to forgive myself.
Mm-hmm.
And once I forgave myself and started thinking that I'm enough right now, that it wasn't my fault, and that and start visualizing and seeing that, now that's what's coming into my life. When I declared it and asked for forgiveness, when I forgave myself, and so I'm no longer going to be the doer, I'm going to be the receiver. That's now I say that now, and that's what I receive.
Yes.
But before, like you were saying about that thought, I'm not enough, and I didn't even realize the thoughts that were going through my head, that I wasn't enough, or
yes.
Wait till the summertime, or wait till you lose 20 pounds, or wait till you get whatever. It's like wait, because I didn't feel like I was enough at that moment. And now I say that I'm enough now. I'm enough now, not yesterday or tomorrow, but at this point in time, I'm enough at this time, whatever.
Yes,
So
beautiful.
I just wanted to say that is
Mm-hmm.
that we actually are mirroring who we are.
Always.
Always.
Beautiful.
And so I just wanted to say
I
that.
love that you said that. I love that you said that, Carmen. And good for you for doing that work, right? And seeing that about yourself and recognizing it. There is there's a place somewhere in the science of mind where we are reminded we don't get what we want. We get who we are. And what he means by that, who we are, is sort of that sum total of our inner belief system, good, bad, and ugly. And we all have a mix of it. There's just no question about it. And so we're constantly reframing that mix to be more and more in alignment with spiritual truth. And spiritual truth would say, I'm enough. I did my best. I'm enough. The rose and the pansy are not having a competition about who's a better flower, right? They're each one enough, exactly as they are. And so our lives are a mixed bag because it is out picturing those thoughts that we have, or that tendency of thinking, which really is an out picturing of what we believe to be true, right? It's actually a bit of a shorthand when we say your thoughts create your reality. Change your thinking, change your life. It's really not exactly true. The truth is, change your beliefs, change your life. But the way we change our beliefs is by working with them. And we work with them in our thought processes. Wait, no. I learned something from that marriage that falling apart, and I'm becoming a better person, and I did the best I could, and right now I'm enough. Do you see? That's what it means to use our thoughts to create our reality, right? And to rewrite the synaptic patterns in our brain. We're rewiring the way that our brain tends to approach and examine the life experience that we're having. But it's because of the things that we believe to be true. And they're generally a big mixed bag, which is also why, why we can have some areas of our life that work great, that we give almost no thought to, because we don't have any conflicting beliefs around that, or those are just parts of us that we kind of have handled. And then there's those other parts, not so much, right? For some of us, it's money. For some of it's relationships. For some of us, we can never get over the feeling of inferiority. We never feel like we're spiritual enough. For some of it's, we just can't imagine that there's actually an infinite universe that loves and supports us. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. We all have those places where we have work to do. And we have other places where we're already in alignment. And so we can see those things, and the ones that are not out picturing the way we want, then those are the ones that we do work with, right? Beautiful. And it is work. That's why we call it spiritual practice. It is work. I loved, my son came to a lunch the other day, and he wore a t-shirt of something, and it said on it something that I was like stunned and so amazed that he had on his t-shirt, because it was like this massive revelation for me 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And that is, Armando, you pointed to it a little bit in your sharing, discipline equals freedom. Right? Because we think of discipline as punishment. We think of discipline as not being able to just indulge ourselves and do whatever we want to do. Right? But usually whatever we want to do isn't necessarily all that good for us, is it? I was so proud of myself yesterday. For my birthday, I had one cookie. We went to Paradise Bakery, and I said, I want peanut butter cookies. Let's get 6 peanut butter cookies. We'll share them with my granddaughter, and Karen and I will share it. We'll share them. And well, you know what happens at Paradise Bakery when you buy 6 cookies, right? They give you 6 for free. Oh, no. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do with 12 cookies? And so when it was time to have birthday cookie, okay, so I have in the past been a cookie-holic, I tell you. I had one cookie. Now, I wanted 3 more. I did. I wanted 3 more. They're so good. I love their cookies. And I had peanut butter cookie, and it's my favorite. But I know what sugar does to me. I know how it affects me. And I know once I start re-craving sugar again, that sugar monster is something I really have to work with. It works so much better when I discipline the intake of sugar. That doesn't get activated again. And Karen and I, years ago, we discovered that the biggest problem with sugar, it makes us both irritable. So when we both have sugar, it's not pretty. It's not. And so the discipline of saying, no, I'm going to have 1 cookie. I indulged myself for 1 cookie, and knowing that I would be free from the effects, right? And free to enjoy the rest of my evening. That discipline was not depriving myself. Do you see? And it's the same thing, disciplining our thinking. It's easier to think we're not good enough than it is to discipline our minds and remind ourselves why we can say, I'm enough right now. Why can we say that? Because we are radiant, magnificent beings of love and light. We are individualized expressions of the one life that is seeking to express uniquely as us. And so therefore, however we show up has to be enough. It has to be enough, right? We don't look at the tree and say, oh, you're not enough. We don't. We don't look at the hummingbird and say, oh, you're not enough. I was hoping for a different kind of hummingbird. Everyone is enough. And so that's the discipline of not going down the old patterns, not going down the old roads, not criticizing when I know somebody hasn't done it right, whatever it is, right? But it's only my right. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? And so the discipline of our thought is what equals freedom. the discipline of a gratitude practice, the discipline of a meditation practice, doing our affirmations, spiritual mind treatment, going to a practitioner, using those spiritual mind treatments, those disciplines are what equal freedom in our lives. And make such a monumental difference, because we are in fact then engaging consciously with this recognition that we are attracting to us out of the very beliefs that we are walking around in life with, out of the behaviors that we are doing consciously or unconsciously. All right, so we are going to move on and start next week on how to use it. How do we consciously engage with this? How do we work with it? We have Easter coming up, fabulous celebration next week. We also have Karen's workshop. Reverend Karen is doing a workshop Thursday, the 27th of April, called Don't Let Your Good Get in the Way of Your Great, which is one of the things we do. We're afraid to go for our great because what we have is good enough. And it's a powerful workshop that Thursday evening. So go out on the events page. You can find all the cool stuff we're doing here at CSL Dallas. And enjoy this beautiful, beautiful spring. So let's just take a moment and be grateful for the love that is being shown to all those people that have been in the paths of the tornadoes. Loved and supported by the universe through all the people that help them, through all the ways that we can contribute to that help. We are truly grateful to be the light in the world. Yeah. So have a beautiful week. Bye for now.